Okay, let's get started. You are here for the object-oriented design, object-oriented programming in Java final exam review. It's going to be a short class, but what I'm going to do is go through every single one of the 25 questions on this exam and tell you what to study for. This is a different exam than the exam that the weekend folks took, for those of you who took it on the weekend. If you didn't take it on the weekend and you're listening to this video and you're a weekend student, you're taking the weekday exam and you're taking it on Monday 12/12 or Wednesday 12/14. Technically our day is the 14th Wednesday because our classes are on Wednesday. However, you can take it on Monday if you want. I believe that Monday is going to be a crowded day. From what I've been hearing so far, everyone is going to show up on Monday and Wednesday is going to be empty. So if you don't want the chaos and you want to have a pleasant exam experience for which you don't have to wait in line and stuff like that, come Wednesday. And you can come from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The exam will take you an hour to an hour and a half. This particular exam, I believe, is extremely easy. I went extremely easy on this one. As opposed to the computer graphics exam, I think it's a little harder. This term, the Monday classes ended up having harder exams than the Wednesdays, so, which is good because last time I had this exam, the object-oriented design exam was the hardest. Last time I did this, so you guys ended up with an easy one this time, in my opinion. It's easy because there's no source code. You don't have to write anything, and you don't have to look at any code either. So I'm not making you write source code. But the questions are kind of tricky. But I'll go through each one of the questions. It's multiple choice. So no true or false. It's just 25 multiple choice questions. So you can take it on Monday or you can take it on Wednesday from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Don't show up at 4 o'clock and expect to be us here for 2 more hours after that. Not going to work. So get in before 4 so you can end by 4. Yes? You can take, if you have the data structures course, you can take them both at the same time. Yeah. Well, I would come in and take one person and maybe take a 5-minute break, get some water, and then take the next one. But you can take them both on the same day if you'd like. In fact, the data structures and the object-oriented, the 2 Wednesday classes are supposed to be on Wednesday the 14th, but you could take them both on Monday if you wanted to, or one on Monday, one on Wednesday. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can take them both on Monday, you could take one on Monday, one on Wednesday, you can take one on Wednesday and not take the other one, huh? Say that one more time.
If I take on Monday and then the questions will be different.
No, same exam. Doesn't matter which day you take it on. It's going to be the same. What you do is you come in, you show your ID. You must bring an ID, a picture ID, by the way. We are required to check IDs now, and your ID will be checked this time. I know I've said this in the past, and the TAs have been kind of laxed with it, but this time it's mandatory. We are checking IDs. Too many students are trying to take exams for other students. So they're really cracking down on that. So bring your ID. But you can take it any one of the 2 days. Any other questions before I continue? Okay, good. So what we're going to have is the exam is worth 25 points, or 25% of your score. If I take a look at the syllabus for the course, refresh our memory on the grading, we're looking at the final exam at 25%. Midterm exam at 25%, which you should have already completed perhaps, and then the CSLO essay at 25%, and then the homework assignments. There are only 4, not 5, if you remember, because you don't have to do the last one. And the last one was on applets, I believe. But you only have to do 1 through 4. If you do the 5th one, you'll have 105%, which means I don't give out A pluses, but you'll have an A. So, or you can use it. Don't do it. Or use it as extra credit and skip one of the other ones if you want. Depends on what you like. If you like working with applets, then that might be a good choice. So what we're looking at then is a breakdown of everything that's due for this course, and these items need to be uploaded into the LMS by next Monday, 12/12. So by the first day of the final exam, all assignments need to be uploaded into the LMS. There are going to be no exceptions this term. LMS is working just fine. No technical difficulties. If you happen to be the only student who has a technical problem with it, I'm sure we'll make an exception in terms of we're not going to hold the technology against you. But we're not going to extend the deadline 20 times. It's 12/12. Not in by 12/12, not in. So that's another rule that sort of has formed itself in the last term. So now what I'm going to do is go through the exam question by question, and here's all assignments that are due on Monday, and tell you what is on the exam. So question number 1. Huh. It's based on object-oriented techniques, not even really Java. So, no, the basic object-oriented. And what I'm doing here is I'm typing up a list of 25 or more questions here. Or not questions, but the subject areas. I'm going to upload this to the bhacker.com website along with the video that's being recorded right now, so you have both. So if you don't feel like taking notes, you can use this as your notes, or you can also take your own notes if you'd like. But I'm going to try and incorporate in here while I'm typing everything that I'm saying, hopefully, so I know I'm saying and what I'm writing, and it's all documented correctly. So you can come back and say, I thought you said there wasn't going to be any questions on object-oriented design. And I can say, look, it says no, the basic object-oriented design techniques and concepts, aka my acronym I gave you, or my mnemonic I gave you, a PI. I'm not going to ask you, what is a PI? But we all know what a PI is: abstraction, polymorphism, inheritance, and encapsulation, I hope. Those are the object-oriented components that I will be testing you on. And question number 1 is on one of those PI concepts. Moving right along to question number 2. It's also object-oriented. Question number 2 and question number 1 are both of the PI concept in terms of the object. And you know what? Hold on, let me read ahead here. Number 3 is also, number 4 is also. The first 4 questions are all on this. So there are at least 4 questions on this topic. Okay. Question number 5. Is actually on the concept of parameter passing and methods. So let's see. No, the concept of the method. What is a method? It's a function, right? Function. And how parameters are passed during method with method calls. So it's really on the concept of a method, concept of parameters. Also, be familiar with method overloading and overriding functionality. The question actually has to do with the concept of either one of those two. So overloading, overriding methods, creating method calls with parameter lists. Let's see. The 6th question is also on the PI concept, so I'm going to change this 4 to 5. There we go. Because the 6th question is also. I did a lot on object-oriented concepts. That's how I made the exam easy, I think. Because you know what? Number 7 is also the same. So 6 tallies up to 6 out of 25 questions. That's almost 50. Well, we're getting close. We're getting up there. Six questions on object-oriented concepts. But object orientation in Java are pretty much, that's the main concept of programming in Java. Number 8. The question is actually in regards to static variables and methods of a class. So be familiar with the use of the keyword static. And why it is used with classes and methods. Data, methods, and variables. Variables and data, methods. Variables and methods. What does static do? Uh-oh, look it up.
Static, the variable that need not be initialized or
class level variables instead of.
Yeah.
So, AKA know the difference between class and instance level variables and methods. So a static would make a particular piece of data known to at a class level, accessible via the class level versus the instance level. So it's actually the same concept as using C++, believe it or not. Well, let's just go here. AK didn't work out with my spell checker, so I'll just put here know the difference between class and instance level variables and methods. You'd use a class level variable to keep track of, let's say, student IDs. You know, to keep track of. I'm sorry.
Like count of students.
Count of students, correct? Yeah, that's a good example right there. A count as a counter for the instances, so each instance would update the counter for the class. So. In one of our programming assignments, we used it for student IDs and teacher IDs. Yeah. So the questions are kind of based upon the assignments as well. So all the concepts that are covered in the programming assignments, except for the last one, is covered in the exam as well. All right, so moving right along to the next question, number 9. Has to do with, how do I say this without giving the question away? Well, has to do with memory and reference variables. Obviously, we don't have pointers in Java, so you don't have to worry about allocating, deallocating, but no. It's on garbage collection, by the way. Know the concept of garbage collection. How memory, we had an entire lecture on garbage, well, not entire lecture, a piece of a lecture was on garbage collection. It's a basic concept question. None of these questions are really implementation or source code related. They're concept based. So the concept of garbage collection, singular. How memory is used in the JVM. Not really used. Managed. How? Only one memory. Memory is managed in the JVM kind of concept. No pointers in Java. Okay, so let's see. Number 10 is on the concept of overloading and overwriting again. So it has to deal with item number 2, actually. It's also dealing with that same concept. So I guess I don't really have to add it here because it's already in my outline. So item number 2. Number 11 deals with abstraction. Know the concept of abstraction and how to create abstract classes. Abstract classes. How or why, I should say. Also, be familiar with the concept of interfaces. And how or why they are used. And I see the TA just showed up. Perfect. She can start the attendance. I was concerned about my attendance. So. Know the concept of abstraction and how or why to create abstract classes. And be familiar with the concept of interfaces and how and why they are used. How to create a class that uses an interface or is derived from a interface abstract class. The keywords: implement, extends. But also the concept of what you're doing outside of the syntax of doing it, but the concept of why you're doing it. Why reinvent the wheel? You can build an entire hierarchy until you actually want to implement it. You can delay the implementation details. And another concept in terms of the overriding and the overloading. If you had, let's say, a shape abstract class as an example, and you had an area, the concept being you're going to specialize it in your derived classes by overloading or overriding the behavior to make the area of a circle different than the area of a rectangle, etc. and so forth. So, overloading or overriding, because you have to basically figure out a technique to, and then if that were the case, I would make an abstract method for area to calculate the area at the abstract level, and then I would implement it later on, by adding radius to it if I needed to, as well as sides, length and width or something, to calculate the area. So basic concept of building hierarchies of classes. So maybe I should put that here. Be familiar, because that's really what I just explained. Familiar with the basic concepts of building a hierarchy. Oops, I spelled it for me. Of classes that includes abstract and interface classes. I'm not going to ask you specific details about packages and things that, especially for, like, say, the containers for a linked list or something of that nature. I'm not going to ask you anything about abstract classes that are built into the packages. But, if you were, as a programmer, building a hierarchy, some of the techniques that I covered in the class. Number 11 is on an abstract method. So that's, I guess that's the point I just made a few minutes ago. So, number 12. Number 12 is kind of a weird question. I don't know what's in it. It's on the main method. It's an odd question. I don't know why I put that in there right now, actually. But it's a basic programming question. So, the fundamentals of creating Java programs from classes to main methods to drive the classes. So if you think about the concept, what we're looking at is creating a bunch of classes in a hierarchy and then creating what's called driver programs. I'll put in here driver programs. And the driver programs are making instances of the classes and exercising the classes, and that's essentially question number 12 is on that concept of the main. Be familiar with where to place main and why. Also, how to create classes. For example, using the class name as the file name with case sensitivity. The basic, these are considered basic programming techniques and concepts. All right, we're halfway through the exam almost. Question number 12. That's a lot of stuff so far, I guess. Number 13. Question number 13. Access modifiers. The public, the private, the protected, that stuff. Public, private. So, know the different access modifiers. Public, comma, private. dot, dot, dot. Different with static, abstract, all those other modifiers. So public, private, I'll just put here, comma, etc. Didn't like that. Algebra access modifiers, and that was question number 13, which was on access modifiers. That would be access modifiers for classes, for data, for classes, data, methods, comma, etc. Used for. All right, question number 14. Stop me if you have any specific questions as I go through this. As I say, the exam actually, I kind of think it's kind of easy. Number 14 is also on access modifiers. So 13 and 14 are on that. So there are at least 2 questions on this topic. Number 15. Number 15 is on invoking methods. Know how to create instances of objects and invoke methods on those instances. It's a really kind of an easy question. You know, the dot notation, passing parameters with method calls. Constructors, let's see, which is number 16, is on a constructor concept. Know the constructor concept and how or why to create one. Know the concept of how the constructors trigger, fire, execute. That is the order. And back up here on instances of objects and invoke methods on those instances. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I thought there was another point I wanted to make on that, but yeah, there is, but I can't remember it, actually. How to create instances of objects and invoke methods on those instances, as well as the concept of accessors and modifiers in terms of gets and sets. That's just what I'm trying to think about. I can't remember how to word it. The concept of get and set methods to be used by the class to modify data members without accessing the data members directly. That's what I wanted to say. Basic programming concept. How the constructor concept. Know the constructor concept and how to create one. Also the concept of multiple constructors. Also the concept of multiple constructors. Know the concept of how constructors execute. That is the order from, let's say, base to derived, etc. The next question is on the ISA. I'm trying to figure out how to explain that one. Well, we saw that one in the programming assignments when students and faculty is a member of person. How do you say ISA? Yeah, just call it ISA maybe. Inheritance. It's an inheritance concept. No, the concept. What were we going to say? Yeah, of subclasses and superclasses and inheritance. Also be familiar with the ISA. Am I saying that right? is a member concept that is an object. Student is also an object person. Student and teacher is also an object person. As in the, do you remember what assignment number that was? Second? As in the second programming assignment. The concept of identity, object identity, and upcasting between objects contained in the same object. Yeah, okay, objects. Objects contained in the same object through inheritance. Upcasting. I didn't like that word either. Okay, upcasting. There we go. You know what it means to upcast? It's to go up in the hierarchy. So if I have a base class person, and then I take person and I create two derived classes from it, a student and a teacher, and I take a teacher and I take a student and I upcast them both, it makes them equal. It makes them all people. So I can take and create an array of people, and the people array can have students, and it can have, so that's what I'm talking about, and that's what we did in that assignment, if you've done. Instances, yeah. Because instances of derived classes also contain instances of their parent class, base, yeah. The base class is also in the derived. So when you make, every time you make a, let's say for example, a teacher that might be employee, that might be student. So a teacher would have three objects inside of that one object, and upcasting means you go between the different levels of the hierarchy. So you can go between the different levels, and I can take everybody here that works at ITU would be an employee. Some of them are janitors, some of them are teachers, some of them are TAs. You can cast them all to the same to make them all equal using the ISA concept. And the ISA concept is going to make it so that, you know, if anybody is a member of this particular object hierarchy class, then they're compatible with other members of the same class. So that's what that's one question. The exam. That's what the question is getting at. Moving right along to number 17 is also on inheritance. So we have 1, 2, 3. There are 3 questions. There are 3 questions on this topic. What's inheritance is pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty substantial topic. 18. Oh, let's change that to 4 questions. 18 is also on object-oriented inheritance. Number 19. Oh, you know what? Well, 19 is different. It's on using a super reference in a constructor. So using the keyword super and this. Know how or why to use the keyword super and this. And what the concept is doing as related to constructors and other parts of the class. Kind of gave that one away. If you know what super's doing for constructors, you know the answer to that. That's one of the questions, actually, to see if you know the answer to that. So that's question number 19. All right, moving right along, question number 20. See, there's no mystery on this exam anymore. Hey, 20 is on abstract classes, 21 is on interfaces. So I've already actually kind of put that in the outline already up here. Abstract and interfaces. Static. What do we got here? Abstract classes. There are there are at least well, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, because number 22 is on abstract methods and non-abstract methods. 4 questions on this topic. Actually, number 22 is on the creation of the abstract. Well, I don't want to give this one away. Just think about it. If you have abstract methods in a class, does the class have to be abstract? Yes. Concepts of creating abstract classes. You put one in there and the whole class has to be abstract. So I gave you the answer to that one. It's not a true-false question, however. It's going to have multiple options for you. 2 no's and 2 yeses with some explanation as to why. Not quite as straightforward, but that is basically the question. Number 23 is on polymorphism, and so that would go along with number 5 up here. Excuse me, the pi up here. So let's change that 6 to 7. Half the exam at this point. No, actually not half the exam. That would be 12 questions, so 13 questions. But a quarter of the exam is on object-oriented concepts. That's polymorphism. Number 13, excuse me, number 24. 24 is having to do with constructors and method signatures. So let me go back up to the constructor question. And that would have to be dealing with the concept of taking parameters, as I mentioned before. Here we are. Know the constructor concept and how to create one. Also, the concept of multiple constructors. How the concept of how the constructor executes. That is the order in which. Also, be familiar with the concept of method signatures. Say method signatures are the essentially the concept of the varying different amounts or types of parameters, even switching the order of the parameters, putting an int and a string and a something is different than a string and an int and a something in terms of its signature. And knowing that, if you create an instance of an object with one signature, you're going to run a different constructor than another one, which is what that question is getting at, actually. So it's question number 24. Another give me. It's a signature question. But some people who aren't listening to this aren't going to know, well, signature, what does that mean? Do you sign it? They're not going to know what that means. Because nothing else in the question is going to tell you what that is. So, last but not least, question number 25 on the exam. On the exam goes back to using the abstract and the interfaces and deriving a class with an abstract and an interface. Let's see. Let's go back up to that one here. I'm going to put one in here underneath it because it's right next to it. I'm going to say know how to derive a class. Derive a class that uses both an abstract and an interface. Know the syntax for the class declaration. And basically, it's another question about the extends and implements, essentially. I guess I could have left it on here, but I wanted to be a little bit more specific, seeing how there's 2 questions on this. And that was question number 25, believe it or not. That's all we have. So that's why I say it's kind of an easy exam, in my opinion. I think I could have been a lot more brutal on it. In fact, last term I was a lot more brutal on it. Last term you had to write a base class and drive a class from a class, and you had to do all sorts of stuff with it. But I guess I'm feeling guilty about last time, so you guys are the group who got the The easy one. The easy
I
exam.
guess
Yes?
the assignment 2 is like the
Assignment
second
2 is it's the
Yeah,
second.
if that is done, then I guess all the questions are pretty much
Yeah,
there.
if you've done assignment number 2, you can ace the final exam.
Yeah.
I didn't stick you. Well, no, there's a miscellaneous garbage collection question. There's a miscellaneous, using. There's nothing on using packages,
On interfaces.
interfaces, abstract classes, interfaces, inheritance. Abstraction is used in the language in terms of the concept of the object. Multiple objects enclosed in one object. It's a true object oriented with a taste of Java. Not too much, just a small little bite of Java in there, but it's mostly object oriented. It's primarily an object oriented test. Let me make sure I save this actually. Save. That's very good. Now's your opportunity to ask any questions about any topics that I didn't cover. Well, we know that nothing on exception handling, nothing on. Actually, I'll make a list. What's not on the exam? What's not on the exam?
Collections.
Yeah, no questions on collections.
Packages, swings.
Packages. Swing. Yeah, you're right. Swing or AWT. Exception handling. Handling. What else did I leave out? This helps me for next time. We didn't even cover applets though. Language syntax. Syntax or source code writing. No questions about writing source code. Let's see, what else did I leave out? I think that's about it, actually. What else do we cover in this course? The object concept's on there. Nothing. Well, there's a polymorphic behavior question on there. There's encapsulation is kind of covered through some other topics. Inheritance is definitely on there. Concept of driving classes from other classes, superclasses, subclasses. That's on there. Yeah, basically just swing, AWT, packages, collections, exception handling, language syntax. Well, there's one inheritance question that deals with the concept of multiple inheritance. Using essentially behavior. Well, that's more of an interface kind of question, though. So, if you know the interface concept, you can inherit one class from a class, but you can also, so you can extend one class when you're writing a derived class, but you can implement multiple interfaces, which leads to multiple inheritance, if you think of the concept. C++, you can actually extend one class from tons of classes, but they don't have interfaces, so the concept's a little bit different. But I think it's actually more true to form in Java, actually, because the interfacing concept is is sort of an abstract concept. It's an abstract implementation. It's a template for what you should implement. We don't have templates in Java either, as we have template classes in C++. And I shouldn't say that we actually do have some sort of in a lot of the abstract interfaces from the collections, there's a lot of templated stuff. But, in the history of Java, it has only been out in the last decade, or the last few versions of it. So. Any other questions, comments, or concerns about the final exam, about the assignments for the course, about the due dates for the assignments, for when to show up for the exam, what to bring for the exam, a pencil, a paper, your student ID, or any ID does not have to be your student ID. You don't need your student ID, you just need a photo ID. If you're in this country, you probably have a photo ID, I would hope. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. It can be an ID card, a passport, anything you want. But don't lose it while you're here. Not responsible for stolen or lost IDs. That concludes then. Unless we have questions, I don't want to rush you guys. This is your opportunity, your time to ponder the material. There's no EE questions. That last lecture I gave you, for those of you who showed up last week, there's no questions on what to expect for the next course if you're taking it. No questions on EE related. No, I guess that's it. Unless you guys can think of something. I've run out of material. I've run out of questions on the exam as well. Was there a question? Oh. Okay, then we're done for today. I will put this out on the website. You can listen to it over and over and over again until you're sick in the face, blue in the face, I should say, and then you'll be ready for the exam. And I will see you next week. We don't have class next week. I had one student ask me that, actually. When final exam week starts, and this is true for all universities, there's no classes. This is the very last day of our official class. All right. See you next week.